Orpheus, directed by Jean Cocteau, reframes the Greek myth in contemporary Paris. Celebrated poet Orpheus, Jean Marais, falls under the spell of a mysterious princess, an embodiment of death, Maria Casares, while his wife Eurydice is left behind. With the aid of the enigmatic Hertebise, he slips through mirrors into a bureaucratic underworld where motorcycles, cryptic radio messages, and tribunals stand in for ancient omens. Cocteau's sleight-of-hand imagery, liquid mirrors, reverse motion, and trance-like slow motion turns everyday streets into thresholds between life and art. Beyond its romance and fantasy, the film is a lucid meditation on fame, mortality, and the cost of inspiration, capturing the Saint-Germain milieu at a precise cultural moment. A cornerstone of Cocteau's Orphic trilogy, it remains an influential modern reimagining of myth, elegant, uncanny, and indelibly contemporary. The Strange Ones, directed by Jean-Pierre Melville, from Jean Cocteau's novel and screenplay, traps two siblings, Elizabeth and Paul, in a claustrophobic room of games, rivalries, and seduction. After Paul is injured in a snowball fight, their bond curdles into a perilous private mythology. The arrival of Agathe, a young woman who eerily resembles Paul's schoolboy idol, shatters their closed world. Cocteau's voiceover threads through Melville's cool staging, while Baroque concerti, chiefly Vivaldi, lend a beating, fateful pulse to the cruelty and desire on screen. A landmark collaboration between two towering figures, the film is at once icy and feverish, poetic obsession refracted through rigorous mise-en-scène. It's less a domestic melodrama than a study in confinement and control, where love becomes a trap and imagination a weapon. Critically influential and still unsettling today, it drew roughly 720,000 admissions in France. Solid art house traction for a work this uncompromising. Beauty and the Devil, directed by René Clair, is a witty, elegant reimagining of Faust. An aging alchemist, Professor Henri Faust Michel Simon, is offered youth by Mephistopheles Gerard Philippe, and the film playfully has the actors mirror and even trade identities as the bargain takes hold. Set in a stylized early 19th century world of laboratories, palaces, and fetes, Clair blends tragicomedy with sleight-of-hand visuals, turning the pact into a satirical dance of temptation, celebrity, and desire. Beyond its polish, the film is a bona fide event. 2,538 T884 admissions in France, a BAFTA Best Film nomination, and Italian silver ribbons for Michel Simon, and for production design, Aldo Tomasini and Léon Barsac. As a Franco-Italian prestige picture pairing, Philippe's youthful charisma with Simon's gravitas, it stands as one of Clair's signature post-war works, debonair, magical, and morally teasing in the best sense. King Pandora, directed by André Berthomieu, is a star vehicle for Bourville's gentle everyman. Léon Maynard, a modest village gendarme, unexpectedly inherits a fortune and a tiny Central European crown, winning the heart of Queen Marika. When swindlers strip him of his riches, Leon cheerfully trades pomp for his képi and returns to the life he knows, the romance intact. Light on its feet and tailored to Bourville's unassuming charm, the film plays as a comic fable about luck, class, and the comforts of ordinary decency. A snapshot of post-war French popular cinema at full strength, it's handsomely studio-crafted and buoyed by a beloved lead. And audiences responded, roughly 36,255 admissions in France, making it a genuine box office smash. Not a masterpiece so much as a warm crowd pleaser, it captures the era's appetite for escapist fairy tales grounded in everyday humanity. The Sky is Red, directed by Claudio Gora, adapts Giuseppe Berto's novel into a stark, near-neorealist study of youth adrift amid post-war ruins. In a bomb-shattered provincial town, 16-year-old Daniele falls in with a small band of survivors. Tullio, a resourceful drifter, Carla, an 18-year-old who sells herself to get by, Julia, frail with tuberculosis, and Little Maria. Shot among real rubble with Vaclav Beach's austere cinematography, the film watches these teenagers barter, steal, love, and mourn their makeshift refuge forever threatened by hunger, police raids, and disease. Gora's feature debut, co-written with Cesare Zavattini and Leopoldo Trieste, pushes neo-realism toward a bleaker moral parable. Innocence erodes, solidarity falters, and survival demands compromise. Marina Berti and Jacques Cernas give the story its stoic edge, while a very young Anna Maria Ferrero lends it bruised tenderness. More than a period piece, it's a lucid portrait of a generation growing up in the ashes, unsentimental, humane, and quietly devastating. Women Without Names, directed by Geza von Radvani, follows a group of displaced women confined in a post-war detention camp in southern Italy. A young refugee, stripped of papers and pass, navigates black markets, corrupt handlers, and fragile alliances with fellow inmates, including a worldly survivor who understands how to bargain for dignity. Doctors, guards, and social workers hover at the edges, sometimes humane, sometimes complicit, while rumors of escape and repatriation keep hope flickering. The atmosphere is raw, barbed wire, overcrowded barracks, interrogations, and the constant fear that identity without documents can be stolen as easily as food. What makes the film stand out is its female point of view. It blends the social textures of late neorealism with a taut melodramatic spine, giving voice to women usually relegated to the margins of DP camp stories. Simone Simon and Valentina Cortese bring contrasting shades of vulnerability and resilience, and the location work grounds their performances in a tangible world of rubble, barter, and improvised sisterhood. Not a crowd-pleasing hit so much as a humane indictment. It's a stark, compassionate portrait of lives suspended between borders. Totò Looks for a Wife, directed by Carlo Ludovico Bragaglia, is a brisk farce built around Totò's music hall timing. Pushed by a meddling relative and a tireless matchmaker, a meek office clerk is told that marriage immediately will save his prospects. What follows is a carousel of disastrous auditions, jealous fiancés barging in, forged photographs, a bride who bolts at the altar, and a notary scene that descends into glorious chaos. Doorways, telephones, and paperwork become Totò's props as he turns everyday civility into perfectly timed pandemonium. Designed as a star vehicle, the film showcases Totò at the height of his physical wit, eyebrow feints, elastic wordplay, and the comically aggrieved dignity that made him beloved. It's not neorealism, it's the other face of Italian post-war cinema, studio-bound, popular, and eager to make audiences laugh again. A crowd-pleasing success in its day, it remains a light, lively snapshot of urban Italy learning to smile through the rubble. Mr. Esteve, directed by Edgar Nebel, adapts Santiago Rusigno's beloved novel, L'Auca del Señor Esteve, into a gently ironic portrait of Barcelona's petit bourgeois world at the turn of the century. The Esteve family has built a respectable neighborhood shop and expects the only son to inherit the counter, the ledger, and the life that goes with them. But the young heir dreams of art, of canvases, studios, and a future measured in inspiration rather than receipts, setting off a clash of loyalty and vocation that ripples through the household and the community. Nebel treats the material with warmth and wit. Lively storefronts, guild halls, and narrow streets become a stage where tradition, modernism, and personal freedom negotiate their terms. Less a grand melodrama than a fond social comedy, the film captures a society trying to reconcile duty with desire. It's a humane, unmistakably local story light on its feet, culturally rich and quietly moving in its defense of the right to choose one's path. Trifles, directed by Juan de Orduña, turns Luis Coloma's novel into a lavish costume melodrama about late 19th century Madrid high society. At its center stands the willful Countess Cura de Albornoz, Aurora Bautista, whose intrigues, affairs, and displays of status unfold under the watchful eyes of her young son Paquito, and a circle of admirers and rivals, including an up-and-coming aristocrat, Jorge Mistral. Silk gowns, candlelit salons, and meticulously rebuilt streets frame a world where prestige is a currency and gossip a weapon, as personal desire collides with public reputation. A flagship, CIE FESA, superproduction. The film showcases Franco-era Spanish cinema at its most opulent, star vehicles, grand sets, and immaculate costume work in service of a moral parable about vanity and power. It's less a character study than a social panorama, a sharp, sometimes caustic portrait of manners anchored by Bautista's commanding presence and the studio polish that defined the period. The Troublemaker, directed by José Diaz Morales, brings the classic 1897 Zarzuela La Revoltosa to the screen with bustle and streetwise humor. In Madrid's working-class Lavapiés quarter, Marie Pepa, a lively young seamstress whose teasing smile is half shield, half challenge, sets the neighborhood buzzing. Courtyard gossip, jealous lovers, and a proud suitor named Felipe swirl into a cycle of quarrels and reconciliations punctuated by chotis and patio door serenades. The camera treats stairwells, laundry lines, and taverns as a ready-made stage, letting everyday spaces blossom into musical set pieces. Beyond its charm, the film is a capsule of popular culture, a celebration of local speech, rhythms, and rituals at a moment when Spanish cinema leaned on zarzuela adaptations to lift spirits. More heritage than high drama, it wins on color and conviviality, warm, melodic, and rooted in a very specific Madrid that audiences of the time recognized as their own.